Hello there. Welcome to Salt All the Things, where we will teach you how to cook recipes including vast quantities of salt. Ha ha! Just kidding. We're nerds. We're going to talk about World of Warcraft. My name is Rocket. This is my buddy Trog.
Hi, I'm Trog. Welcome to Salt All the Things.
We are guildmates, and hopefully we will meet each other in person someday. But we play a lot of World of Warcraft, so we're going to discuss, as it's coming to a close, our thoughts on the War Within.
Oh, yes, very much. This has been an interesting expansion, and I'm excited to talk through each one of the seasons with you, Rocket.
Yes, sir. Off the top of my head, this has been a very experimental expansion for Blizzard in a lot of ways. They've implemented kind of a lot of really cool things that I vibe with, and some things that I don't as much, but I feel they have room for growth. Would you agree?
Yeah, we've seen some of these things grow during the expansion. Why don't we jump in to Season 1 and kind of start with the story of Season 1 and what we thought about that?
Well, that's a Wayback Machine for me, and as you know, I'm kind of old, so I'm trying to remember back to Season 1. I think it was mainly just the introduction of the Earthen, the whole delve mechanics as a whole, and just getting us out there to the new zones and everything. Dornogal, the Khazalgar as a bigger zone area to play in. And I thought the overall intro to the expansion was really well done. It actually had me on pins and needles for Daddy Khadgar. Glad to see he's not, dust.
Just in a magical wheelchair.
Yeah, sucks that he's now the Professor X of our, Blizzard universe. But, at least he's still with us. But yeah, I thought it was a really cool way to kind of just get people dive in. I hope that going forward, we don't have to revisit having Dalaran as a main camp anymore.
I was actually going to mention Dalaran because I believe that's something we disagree on a little bit. I was disappointed that it was destroyed. I really liked Dalaran.
I was happy. I did a cheer. I'm like, no more Dalaran. There's been too many expansions where we're in Dalaran.
If I kind of think about the story, there were moments of it that were really interesting to me, and then a lot of it felt like filler and just kind of smashing things together. But the two moments that I remember the most were in the Isle of Dorne, when you have that Arathi dude that is looking for his friend, and that Earthen gets involved and decides he wants to become a Arathi paladin. I really loved that moment, and it inspired me to create a character around it because I loved that storyline so much.
Honestly, I had almost completely forgotten about that. That's the one that leads you into getting the Earthen as the allied race, doesn't it?
I think it does. I think that's one of those Earthen campaign quests. My other favorite moment was when the blimp descends into Azj-Kahet and the webs grab it and all of that. That was a really fun bit of the story to play.
Yeah, that was giving me big time Indiana Jones vibes. Like, we're exploring. Oh no, what's going on? And it's cliffhanger. And then for the rest of time, that ship is just stuck in webs, apparently.
Yeah, that's so weird that it never got out. It's just stuck there permanently.
We're just here. We're hanging, literally.
On the zones, I think one of the most impressive moments in the expansion is flying into the Arathi area for the first time.
Oh, on that we can 100% agree. Just Hallowfall as a zone probably had the best art direction in my humble opinion. When you come in there and it's just you're just overwhelmed by the vastness. You're underground, but there's sky. How does that work?
Yeah, I really love that. It's the first time, in that underground area, that you actually feel like a lightening of your spirit, because there almost is a sun and a sky.
And I think that's important. It's very easy when you go with an underground expansion as a theme to just constantly for lack of a better word, make us all squint the whole time while we're playing because everything's so dark and you can't see anything. And the only lighting effects are from like torches or handheld objects or, lanterns that are on the wall. And that's cool for like short term. But I think as a whole zone, they did such a good job of making you feel that you were outside when, in fact, if you flew all the way up, you could reach the ceiling.
I saw somebody post somewhere that it was interesting that the expansion that they like make dragon riding like the norm for flying is the same expansion where they stick us underground for half of it.
Yeah, they sandbox you. Well, and we'll touch on this in season 2, but it's kind of the same thing in Undermine. They come up with this great idea, but then they pigeonhole you into a small, tiny, confined space.
I'll say from a zone, I liked the initial look of Arathi, but it was definitely my least favorite zone. I liked Aj-Kahet and the Isle of Dorn more.
As far as the stories of the zones, I would have to agree. Like lore-wise and going through the quests and the dailies and just the engagement of the zone, Aj-Kahet was just way more fun. Having that extra ability to just blow things up randomly is always going to be fun for me.
Do you want to talk about the biggest feature of War Within, the one that we've engaged with the most?
Oh, boy, are you talking my buddy Braun?
I sure am.
My buddy Braun. Like, I was so excited because the Bronzebeards, they've been in World of Warcraft for forever. They're a big part of everything. Magni, Braun, everybody, And he just became like a living meme every time I went into the Delves. Braun started off really well. Like he was strong, he was overpowered, as you would expect someone who's there to help you get through the content should be. And then they had to overtune him repeatedly. But Delves as a whole, I'm going to go out on a limb and hopefully get an agreement from you on this one. But I feel like as a capstone feature, they did a really, really good job in terms of giving people who don't have 4, 5, or 6 hours a day to play anymore, like me, like yourself, giving us an option of, hey, here's some challenging solo content with actual rewards built into it. And as the expansion progressed, they even added more rewards to the table, which I think was definitely necessary.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think the Delves is the best content they've put in the game, like the best feature they put in the game for a long time. WoW has always, at least to me, a large part of WoW is the dungeons, right? And the raids. It's the content that I engage with the most. And being able to get some single player actual dungeon content, and then for some of it to actually be difficult and I have to like really pay attention and play my class well and use my secondaries.
Or in your case, not pay attention and just pull it all anyway.
Well, that's when you're closer to the end of the season and I could just pull the entire goddamn thing.
Yeah, okay. We won't talk about how you've been pulling that the whole time. But anyway.
I love that. And the stories have been fun and varied. I like how it's not just one story in the Delve, because that would have gotten old quick, but starting out with 4 stories and then adding stories to the existing Delve as we went through the expansion, I think kept them fresh and fun to do.
Now, we've recently taken on a couple of new people in our guild, and like one of the things I struggle with is explaining like how useful the Delve system actually can be. So I feel going forward, like they could do a little bit better job of explaining to newcomers. But I think they've done that with the Dungeon Journal in some recent updates that I've been reading. But for a new person coming in, they're used to, or even a returning player who's taken a break, they're probably used to, hey man, Burning Crusade, it's all about you do these dungeons on heroic and then you go to the raid. You do normal dungeons, heroic dungeons, then you raid. That's your progression. Now it's like, well, not really. You can do whatever you want to do. You will get power accordingly, but you're not penalized for having to play by yourself.
Not being penalized for being a single player in WoW. And one of the things in Season 2, which I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but when they let Braun tank, for me, at the time, I was still a healer. I've been a healer for most of my time in World of Warcraft. I loved that I could do what I love to do, which is healing, and I could do it in single player content and actually be semi-productive.
Now, we won't talk about how Braun really lets you practice healing when he's tanking. Really lets you practice.
Really lets you
really good at
practice spam healing.
Yes, really panic button healing. That is one thing going forward I hope that they address is the AI involved with, the Delve companion. I know we're getting a new one in Valera, but I really hope they give us the option or include a pet bar or something where we can be like, hey, go over there. Don't go over there. Because what Braun has famously done for me is go exactly where I don't want him to go every time.
Yes, and like Trog, pull everything in the vicinity for you.
I will say one thing they nailed 100% is Braun being a hunter acts like a hunter. He hops, skips, and jumps around like a rabbit on acid, pulling everything in the area, and then running over to you and being like, "Here, help me."
Oh, I did love. Well, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
We are.
We didn't talk about the raid from Season 1.
Season 1's raid was actually probably one of the favorite raids I've had in a long time. That was the Palace, and going into it was pretty intimidating. I'm not gonna lie, especially knowing how hard that queen fight was from videos that I had seen. But just the whole aesthetic of the place, I think, was pretty cool.
Yeah, I like the aesthetic of the place. I think I didn't like the raid as much. It was my first raid coming back after being gone for 3 expansions. But the queen fight, man, that queen fight was intense.
So many things can go wrong so fast.
But it gave me one of the things I love most about WoW, which is when we've got our guild and we're all raiding together and we're working on it, we're all trying our best, and you start to see everybody focus and come together. Mm-hmm. And when that happens,
even me,
everybody. And when everybody kind of gets focused on the same thing, we all start doing the mechanics together. It's just beautiful, and that's the fun of WoW to me.
And honestly, people are so quick to stop raiding once they get their AOTC. Part of the joy I get is coming back in and the fights that we were progging on for so long, being able to just walk in and just like punch it in the balls. Because we've learned from our mistakes, collectively as a group, and being able to maybe bring in 1 or 2 other people who don't know the fight as well and just be like, hey, here's the basics, follow the group, we'll get you through this kind of thing. That is, to me, like, those are the most fun times, is overcoming adversity as a group.
Oh, bad. The Forge Master from the most recent raid. That was definitely us. We struggled on that one for a while. But then when we got it, we've almost never wiped on it again.
Yeah, at least on Heroic. Yeah, well, we're never going to have an issue with it because we've already seen all that it can do. We've learned 100 ways not to make the light bulb.
But on that first raid, I definitely think the queen fight was kind of the highlight. The rest of the raid, I liked the spider theme. I wish they would do more with the spider people, because that was a part of Wrath that I really enjoyed too. I hope they come back.
They are, according to what I've been looking ahead into Midnight. There's going to be a whole new zone because we're going back to Burning Crusade, and that was a big part of Burning Crusade also, the Azul Narub and everything like that. I really feel like Azkahet was kind of their way of saying, hey, there was a whole bunch of extra stuff we didn't get to put in the game before, so here it is now.
Yeah. I really did love seeing that Spider City. That was those quests that were through there I really enjoyed.
The daily or whatever where you got to collect all the different boxes and bring them to the one place is always fun too. I always do that one.
Oh, Especially if you learn how to cheese it with flying.
Yeah. Or if you're just a druid and you just put it all on your back.
What about the first mid patch? What did you think of Cersei's circlet in the Isle?
So I feel you and I have talked about this one at length. So the island is great. Like the island itself, and I feel the environment and the quests and everything is super cool. When you go into the storm and you end up unlocking the ability to jump in a giant mech, and just like, these are all things that I enjoy. The thing I didn't enjoy is being forced into that stupid ring and just pigeonholed into, these are the best gems, choices don't matter, everyone's going to have the same thing. And it's just more of the same. Every time they have some sort of borrowed power item, choice goes out the window because everyone's just going to min-max. And you would think that they would know that at this point and just, make things that are super powerful off the get-go, but they don't.
Yeah, I don't understand the balancing of that stuff either, because you're right. With both the items where we had various things we could slot into them this expansion, there was a right answer and then there was everything else.
Right.
And that is not interesting gameplay.
No. If your damage is tied into having a specific set of gems, why offer any other gems?
I will say you mentioned the story being really good. I loved all of the flavor text and stuff, and my favorite quest out there was the one where you're following that ghost around and you're seeing how he slowly went insane. That was such good storytelling. That's the other thing I really love about WoW.
That's a deep dive. I mean, hats off to Blizzard for actually giving a crap about something that could honestly have just been a throwaway quest.
Yeah. No, that was really well done. And then, like you said, the mech was awesome. And I loved the storm area because, like I said earlier about enjoying single player content in WoW, I felt like that storm island, especially when you weren't, geared beyond that place yet, it was really fun to be out there and be in actual danger sometimes. Like, I tried pulling all the things and I died.
For those of you who don't get the joke, that is the name of our guild because we cannot not pull all the things. That's just who we are. But yeah, I agree 100%. Like, being out there and actually having danger for a change was kind of fun. All too often you're in things like repeatable content where there's no sense that you could die at any given moment. And that storm, depending on what character I'm on, I can die at any given moment, especially on my hunter or my paladin.
I was going to say awakening the machine.
Right.
No challenge at all.
No challenge, but I believe the intent there was for it to be something that increases in difficulty as you go on, and they just kind of had to let that go in favor of other things, which, politics of Blizzard aside, I understand. Like, they had one direction for, maybe 4 months or so, and then all of a sudden they had to hard pivot left. So
yeah, awakening the machine is one of those things that I view as a disappointing lost opportunity. Like, I could see where that would have been really, really fun.
Yeah. Well, and you see the groundwork for a lot of the things, in the expansion, unfortunately, that you didn't play, but you were smart to not play it. Shadowlands had Torghast, and you could see the groundwork for a lot of the stuff that we love now was actually laid down in Shadowlands in Torghast. That's where a lot of the delve ideas came from, at least in my opinion. I'm not a developer for Blizzard by any means, but I can see definitely the correlation of hey, this worked really well. How do we make it work better and make it more accessible and rewarding? So season 2.
Yeah, season 2. Oh, goblins, my favorite race in World of Warcraft.
Rewarding. Let's talk about rewarding, because season 2 was way more rewarding, in my opinion, in terms of what we got story-wise and raid-wise. That is probably the most fun I've had in all of the War Within in terms of raiding, was in Undermine.
Oh, that raid. I think that's how I would describe that raid. It was just fun. Like every fight was different. Every fight had something unique about it. I personally loved the Katamari boss because I love the Katamari Damacy series. But all of those fights were fun, except for maybe the second to last boss. I didn't find that terribly fun.
Well, we didn't find it very fun while we were wiping, but once we figured it out.
Yeah, once we figured it out, it got better.
But I gotta say, the story of everything, and I mean, who knew that we could actually have feelings for a goblin getting zapped, man? Like, really?
Oh,
Like, that upset me. I was like, that shook me a little bit.
that was such a good story moment. Like that was, and it was believable too, because you saw these two characters interacting and their different viewpoints on goblin life and goblin culture versus, you know, the rest of the races. I really liked how
Right.
they were doing all of that discussion. And then the one goblin that you kind of saw is probably, you know, maybe not the nicer of the two, is willing to sacrifice himself to give a chance to his people. And I really thought that was beautiful.
Speaks volumes. And it's like, again, when you can have meaningful story moments in a video game that people are playing, I mean, come on. Like, I bet you, unless you're completely heartless, like that was an emotional pivotal moment for a lot of people. Like they went, oh, things are actually really serious. Because, you know, you think about Gallywix and you think about the goblins, and I remember back to Cato when they revamped like the starting area and everything like that. And, you know, that was all tongue-in-cheek, very slapsticky, very gimmicky, you know, nothing really too serious. But then you get into War Within Undermine area, and it's like, no, this is like life and death for these people that are living there.
Yeah, I wonder. I've always been a Horde player from the start of my time with World of Warcraft, and I've played goblins a lot because they're my favorite race. I wonder if that story hit as hard on the Alliance, like for a long-term Alliance player rather than a long-term Horde player.
Well, I can tell you, being a Alliance main up until about, let's say, Shadowlands maybe is when I pivoted. It hit me just as hard as I would assume someone who's been playing, you know, Horde the whole time. And it's kind of the same story moment where, like, even if you're a Horde player, burning the tree in Teldrassil and Dragonflight, you know, that's a big moment.
I'm really sorry I missed that one. There's a few moments in the last few expansions I'm sorry I missed.
Actually, that was prior to Shadowlands. My bad. Because that's why Sylvanas is, you know, atoning. But, yeah, so, I mean, Season 2. What else happened in Season 2? They did some updates to the Delves, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. They put new goblin-flavored stories in all of the delves, and God, I loved that.
Okay, yeah, so this is where Blizzard has, I think, in a lot of ways learned from mistakes of the past, where they introduce what they call an evergreen feature or a capstone feature, and they tend to like forget about it for a little while until like the very end of the expansion, and then they revisit it. This seems like every new season of content, they were looking at the delves and adding things and figuring out, how do we make this better? How do we make this, you know, nicer for people to do? And yeah, adding different flavor stories was, I think, the way to go.
Yeah, I also like how they didn't view all of the delves as just A to Z, and you always got to go the same way, right? Some of them have you like take teleport paths to different spots within the delve. Some of them have you run the delve backwards. Some have you fight the boss first.
Right.
Like that, I love all of that variety because
The randomness.
it keeps it from getting stale.
Right.
as
It's
fast.
engaging. It's, you know, it's not, hey, linear path. Oh, look, it's the same delve I've done 15 times already.
And I love when they brought the goblins in. Of course, with the goblins comes a lot of explosions and machines that half work. Like it's all very goblin-y. And my favorite delve was one of the two released in season 2. It was the streets one, side street.
Yeah, the side street sluice. So for those of you who aren't aware, that one is really unique because it has multiple levels. It's kind of like a game of 4D chess with WoW. So you have the opportunity just by fighting things that are in front of you, of accidentally pulling things above and below you to your platform. And it just makes accidentally in heavy quotations there. It just leads to just chaos on a mass scale, and I love it. It's one of my favorite ones. Like, one of my favorite things to do, honestly, back in vanilla WoW before they changed it, was when I had the power level to do so, I would go into Dead Mines and grab everything surrounding the ship and kill it down. Well, yeah, this brought that feeling back.
I loved with it kind of being a spiral, right? Where you go through all the levels, but you're kind of going around a point. They brought so much variety to each of the different areas, and it felt like what I used to love about the old dungeons back in Classic, how they felt larger than just the path you were on to kill the boss. Like, there were
you're wondering what's off areas. Like, what's the one out there in Tannerus, man? The one that we used to run all the time back in the day.
Oh man, I can't. Zulgrub or something like that.
Zulfaric. So, like, all those side passages in that giant dungeon, that actually has like 2 sections with optional stuff. So, yeah, I'm with you. Like, they really did a good job of making you wonder, like, what does the rest of this place look like?
The initial exploration of the Delves, when you could get that achievement for finding the 4 chests, that was a lot. I'm a collector. I love achievements. I love just finding things and secrets and all that kind of stuff. And that was deeply satisfying to me. Like, even though it was only the first time, I kind of wish they like added a couple treasure chests with every season,
right?
Because that would have been cool to go on that treasure hunt again. I loved how they hid some of them, like in the rafters and way out there, so you actually had to explore to find them.
Well, and you know, I think they added chests in every new dungeon that every new delve that they came out with.
Yeah, they did.
But it would be nice for them to add 1 or 2 to the existing ones as well.
We're getting so caught in delves, we didn't even talk about Undercity itself and super fun driving at high speed to smash into something.
Yeah. Undermine. Well, we kind of touched on it earlier when we were talking about the dragon riding. And again, here's a really fun feature that drove me absolutely bonkers, crazy nuts, because I would get going so fast on the dumb car, and then like a pebble would get in my way and I'd come full stop. And that to me just isn't very fun. Or mastering how to do a turn when you're going a bazillion miles an hour. You know, if you're going to make me do all that, don't put a bunch of obstacles in my way. Let me just have some freedom to just let me go ballistic if I want to. You know what I mean?
That's what I think with the driving, what they really could have improved is to let us have some sort of racetrack that actually kind of taught us that steering, because it was hard to learn that on the streets of Undermine.
On the fly.
Yeah. Well, because like you said, there was so much garbage in the way, and you like when you're trying to work things out and you slam into a wall, and now you're like, okay, now I got to back up and I got to turn around, and like that kind of stuff needs something like what they did in Dragonflight, because although I didn't play the expansion, I played after the fact, and they gave you a tutorial basically. Here's how you accelerate.
Right.
Here's how you like weave through and do this, and here's a big open area to do it and learn it before you're kind of using that for the races.
Do you know how many times I'd be just jamming, having a good time in my car, and then that stupid guy pushing the broom would get in my way, and I'd come dead stop, and I'd be so mad at him. There's literally nothing you can do. He exists to annoy people. That's literally why he's there.
Why is he even sweeping the street? It's such a smog-filled area anyway.
Right? It's Undermine. The whole place is filthy. What are you cleaning, dude? Come on. There's literal cans that I can walk up to and kick every 5 seconds if I want to. I think you missed a spot, buddy.
So what about the mid patch for season 2 and that super fun belt? Because I was kind of checked out during that patch.
Well, if I'm being honest, like if we're talking ring versus the belt, I feel like the belt was a much better idea. But again, my issue is if you're going to do this every season in the expansion, it gets really stale and really old really fast. Oh, look, now we have yet another thing that is quote unquote customizable, but people are going to figure out like really fast what the good abilities to have are. Like almost all of my DPS classes needed the haste buff. That's it.
For that critical or the lightning thing.
Right. Yeah. The whatever gives you the proc for haste, that's what everyone needed. So why give me 7 other choices I'm not going to choose? Again, it feels bad. It makes me sad. Like it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It feels like an item like that should be special. It should last for a while. It should have multiple interactions with the game. They were skipping ahead just a little bit to season 3. We got that cloak, and they said, this is going to play into the raid. And really all it was you used it to jump over a couple of pits.
Right? This is going to be pivotal for you. You can't even enter without it. Why? Just so I can use your portals?
Yeah. And that because there were 3 items like that this expansion, like you were saying, none of them felt very special to me. They all just kind of felt like, oh, well, here's a thing that, there's only one right answer to configure it anyway. And now any belt drop that you get later is just going to be garbage for a while.
Unless you get a heroic or a mythic belt to replace it with, which again is like, why give us the thing if it's just going to be replaced in a few weeks anyway?
Yeah, then
they should make that the thing and make the loot tables reflect that, hey, this is the thing that you're going to use for this season. So you don't need a belt to drop from the raid unless you're doing a mythic. And then make it like a special drop, a rare drop or something like that.
The thing I did really enjoy about the mid-patch was those visions coming back. I had a lot of fun with that.
I will be honest, like the first go-around with those, I didn't interact with them very much, but this second iteration of them was well done, and the changes they made were minimal but very necessary to make it fun for me. Giving us things like the jewel crafting mount and the extra mounts that you can find in there and just all the achievements that are tied into it. That's what made me want to actually engage with it, because like you, I love just the feeling of like, hey, I did the thing, check the box, yay, I got a reward.
I loved all of those mounts that were like hidden all over the place. You had to do different things. Like one of them, you had to find all those horseshoes scattered all over the place. That was fun. The only downside to me was I don't understand why they were alternating Orgrimmar and Stormwind back and forth. They should just let you do both from the start.
Well, they figured that out towards the end of it and fixed it. But yeah, I agree. That should have you should be able to just choose which one you need to do if you're working on something.
But that was I was back playing BFA a little tiny bit, and I happened to come back right in the middle of that. So I did do a little bit of those back in BFA, but I remember it also being very difficult.
Yeah, it was way harder back then.
Well, difficult to like do repeatedly because you had to earn
Yeah.
keys in order to go in there.
Yeah.
And I loved this where I could practice and I could focus and I could get better because I could go in, and if I made a mistake, I could learn from that mistake. I'd go back in and try it again. And I really liked that aspect of it.
I feel like Blizzard is slowly learning the lesson that, I wish they would have learned, back with Wrath of the Lich King, let's be honest. And that is that sometimes failure is a great teacher, but you shouldn't punish failure all the time. So they always implement these things where like, you need this to do this. And if you fail at it, you have to earn the thing to try again. And that's just going to make someone not want to try it. Because if you fail, you have to refarm something to go back in. And yeah, again, I agree with you. They made this more accessible. And yes, failure is failure, but you could just immediately start over and remember what you struggled with and apply that to the next run, and gradually, even someone as ADD brain as me can learn from all that and can be good at it.
Yeah, I'll say an example of what you're talking about, I think, is the reason that I don't gel with Mythic Plus that much. Like Mythic Plus, you get no reward unless you finish it. You often have to pug things, and people are going to have different levels of like wipe tolerance. And most people doing Mythic Plus is if there's one wipe, they just start dropping like flies. So now you've wasted all the buff materials that you paid money or spent time making yourself. You didn't get any loot for doing even part of a dungeon, and you just wasted a half hour of your time for nothing. Like, it feels like Mythic Plus does not have a safe way to learn because it's just a frustrating experience end to end. I'm glad I read something the other day. They're putting in something in Midnight where you can learn the routes with the low ones. And I love the idea of giving you an area to learn the Mythic Plus that isn't just twos where all of the people are failing on every single dungeon and giving up right away, because that's what it is right now.
Right. Because that's been my experience too, is like, being a DPS, a dime a dozen, I don't necessarily want to tank or heal a mythic keystone because I know the high levels of play that are going to be required, right? So I choose DPS because, if I fail, oh well, I'll just move on. But I agree, like that a fix that they included, which actually goes into effect, I believe, today, as soon as the servers decide to come up, where I think it's everything up to a 7. They kind of highlight the mobs in the route for the people that are learning the dungeons. And let's be honest, they change the dungeons every time. So not everyone's going to know. Like, if I didn't play in Shadowlands, I wouldn't know what to expect. And I think also what they do is they tune the dungeons to be keystones. So you're playing at a little bit higher of a level, and the bosses may do similar abilities that you remember, but they may have something new.
Yeah, definitely. I really like that idea of a training ground.
Now, the try-hard neckbeards are all going to be upset about it, but, for the accessibility crowd, folks like you and me who don't necessarily engage with keystones all the time, I think it's a great way to get someone like me to even think about tanking a keystone. It's the only reason I am.
Oh, man. Healing Mythic Pluses was... I did not enjoy the activity because healing... I mean, part of the reason I'm DPS is I got to where healing wasn't enjoyable anymore. Healing is just pump as much numbers into the party as you can constantly nonstop. And that's not what I find fun. I hope, Rocket, that we do a follow-up episode on almost focused on support and healing classes, because there's a lot to say on that topic.
We can definitely dive into that. They recently released a survey. I feel like we could do an episode about that survey and talk in depth about our thoughts and feelings of like how has support been failed by Blizzard and how could it be implemented? Because I feel like if they just tweaked a few things, they could figure it out really quick.
So
Season 3?
Yeah, Season 3. In my opinion, the prettiest thing that has happened during the War Within. I love when you're out in Koresh, how that looks. Or the raid, when you're seeing the void and the Koresh destroyed in the distance. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. Again, art department is never the department that I feel lets me down ever in terms of Blizzard games. Every zone, every area is just beautiful to look at, but Koresh, for whatever reason, and I think it gives me a little bit of Netherstorm and Burning Crusade nostalgia, is probably what does it for me, the ecodomes and things like that.
Oh, you're right. Netherstorm was awesome, and it does feel very much like going back to that.
And it makes sense because we're in ethereal land, right? So, I mean, that's what Netherstorm was. So, again, it just gives me those cool, hey, this shouldn't look like this, but it does, and it's cool that it does,
It always weirds me out when you start getting a heavy sci-fi inside of World of Warcraft, which is a high fantasy game.
Right.
But I like when they smash these things together and get something like the ethereals out of it.
Well, and let's be honest, it's not just fantasy. Like Warcraft at its core has been just a general mashup of all these different genres coming together that necessarily shouldn't, but they do, and it works. I mean, I don't know why, but it works.
The cloak, I think, out of the three, like, you called them borrowed power items.
Correct.
I think the cloak was the one that was the best to me. It was the one I enjoyed the most, leveling up and getting those new talents every week that, powered it up some more.
Right.
That one was the most fun to me, and the secondary stat was based on whatever is good for you. There wasn't one right answer, although wasn't much of a choice, just haste, mastery, crit, or versatility.
Right. But I also feel like the power of the cloak has the potential. Like, I mean, come on, how many times have I been in a tier 11 delve where my cloak one-shots the boss just because?
I do love when that burst comes out of the cloak and just nukes things.
That is what a borrowed power item should do, in my opinion. And I felt like each one is a progressive ramp up in terms of ability and potential power, right? So, like, you've got the ring, which is, and then you've got the belt, which is like, oh, this is a little cooler. And hey, I can see there's potential in this and I'm going to keep it for a while. Then you get the cloak. And when you max out that baby and you go into delves, man, fun things can happen. Like fun stuff can happen.
I would have loved to see something like the Cloak Evolve All expansion. That would have been great to, like, when you finally reach that power point at the end, like you said, and it just starts nuking things for you.
Right.
That would have been a lot of fun to kind of build up towards the whole expansion. Yeah, I would have totally ditched the ring and the belt for that.
Right. Give us one and let us power it up for the whole thing. That's what I'm hoping for in Midnight. That's really what I'm hoping for, is if they do an item like this again, give us one for the whole expansion that gradually increases its abilities throughout. I know that takes a lot of forethought, but I think they've proven that they're trying to, like, plan ahead a little bit better overall as a team.
And I do think they're being successful with that. I know War Within kind of felt a little like we were just all over the place because they were trying to
disjointed.
They were trying to meld directions to move forward. But from a story perspective in that last patch, I loved how the story we were exploring was, there was this narrative about Koresh that we've always kind of been told, and then we found out it wasn't that narrative.
The truth is,
and we weren't just learning it, but the people, like, that were involved in the situation.
Venari.
Right, she got to learn what was actually going on, and you saw the rift form between the major characters in the story, and it was interesting character dynamics instead of just, I'm the hero and this other guy's the bad guy and we got to go beat the bad guy. There was that gray area.
Me hero good, them villain bad.
Yeah, like that stupid guy who yells at you from the table all the time.
Thank God we were able to tell him to shut up. But yeah, and again, like, a lot of that is because they had to pivot, mid expansion with, like, where they were going to go with the story. Like, the whole thing about Heronir, they were a big part of the, this is the War Within opening cinematic, the preview. And then we met them maybe one time, I think, in all of the War Within.
I think we had 3 distinct times that we, like, journeyed with her on a small quest string, and then it was over. She was just like a side character.
And that was down in Ashkahead, if I remember. But, like, yeah, it's like, what happened with that? Well, come to find out, it's because they had to pivot. And, props where they're due. I feel like the pivot was successful, but it doesn't make it any less noticeable. Like, we all know that it happened because look at what we got. The stupid Flames Radiance things that they shoehorn in there and all these other things.
Oh, God, we didn't even talk about that.
We've spent a lot of time on delves. I'm going to cap it off with delves in Season 3 are the best they have ever been. Once they introduce those skip gates as an option to quick finish, amazing. Just amazing. Especially if you're trying to help somebody who's, like, new to the delves. Those are one of the best things to see happen when you're in the middle of one.
Oh, it feels really rewarding when you find one. It feels like a really special moment.
It's like, oh, thank you. I would much rather kill 3 bosses than have to collect XYZ yet again.
Although I have had a skip gate show up once I've satisfied all the criteria and just had to fight the boss.
That doesn't feel great. It's very rare, but yeah, I've had it happen too. It's not fun.
And I
when
think
that happens.
Archival Assault, the season 3 delve, became like your favorite.
Yeah, man. The particular story I like the most in there, and there's one out in Azkahet that's this way too, is where you don't necessarily have a boss to fight at the end. It's just 3 of an empowered mob. And those stories to me are actually more fun for me to complete. Rather than just collect a bunch of stuff, now go fight this big bad. Okay, you win, I guess. Have fun.
On the raids in season 3, or the raid in season 3, I liked all of those encounters. I don't think they were as inventive as season 2, but the Dementius fight was just, I mean, that feels like the purpose of that raid. Like all the other things didn't really matter that much. It was Dementius that was the purpose of that raid.
Dementius and me, we have a complicated relationship. I love the fight and I love the originality of it. It's a big step forward for World of Warcraft to have something like that. Not just a multiple phase fight, but a multiple strategy for each phase. They kind of touched on it with the Queen fight, and they, I think, expanded it quite a bit with Dementius. Now, Underpin, yeah, you had different mechanics throughout the whole thing, but like, this is the first time that I think I have ever died because I couldn't get on a mount quick enough.
I've also died that way a few times, especially when I switched to my druid. And the first time I did it, I realized that your flying doesn't actually work.
Flight form not allowed, and I disagree with that decision. But I would also like to see them, if they're going to do something like that again, where flight is required, do what they did in the Dragonflight encounter, which is give you the extra action button that will mount you on something regardless of what it is.
Or the races that were all through this expansion. Every time you talk to that guy, if you're not on a mount, it pops you on a dragon.
Right.
And then, right, because as a druid, I would prefer those things in flight form, but it forces you on a dragon, and I have to get off the dragon and then turn into flight form and start the race. Like, it would have been great if when you got pulled over there, we were all put on a mount and then take off, because that felt like buggy rather than intentional design.
Right. But the fight itself, I mean, it gives me fits just because it's a lot for my brain to process and deal with. But our guild really struggled with phase 1 for quite a while. But then when it started clicking, man, it was impressive to watch. Like, people were dropping the pools where they needed to be. It was just fun times. And each time as we progressed, it's more and more satisfying, because that is, quite frankly, the most difficult encounter in the entire raid.
It was great. The moment I remember for the guild that like kind of resonated with me the most was we were talking about dropping the puddles in the right place and doing the gravity thing. We were talking about at least phase 1 mechanics. And then all of a sudden, we stopped talking about phase 1. And we started talking about how to deal with the ads and what thing to do in phase 2. And we were still completely focused on doing phase 1 correctly, but we were talking about phase 2. And it was awesome that we'd all come together, solved the problem of phase 1, and now we were on phase 2. And man, that was quick. We must have wiped 15 times on phase 1, but then I think we only wiped like 6 times on phase 2.
And it's pretty funny that, like, yeah, as I recall, because I came into the guild, I think you guys were still in season 1 when I joined, if I'm not mistaken. It may have been season 2. We may have already done Queen with the group I was in prior.
I think it was season 2 when you joined.
So, like, I didn't get to experience your 100 wipes or whatever on Queen or whatever it was, but the one that Mito always talks about. But I got to experience, Underpin and or not Underpin, Gallywix. I got to experience Gallywix with y'all and kind of see how the process works. And then I knew that like the next raid, we got this. It may take us a little bit, but the shocking thing to me is it took less wipes for us to clear, in my opinion, the harder of the two bosses.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. We got through Dementius really, really quick when we finally kind of had it down and we just went at it. The fight was over very, very quickly.
So I think we're pretty much waxing nostalgic now about season 3 and everything. Is there anything that we've missed?
Well, we didn't talk about the mid patch for season 3, which brought Legion Remix.
Oh, I could do a whole show about Legion Remix, Trog.
The one thing I want to say about Legion Remix, what I really appreciated, is that coming up and all of the Cenarian stuff and the Emerald Dream stuff that was in the Legion Remix was like perfectly placed to be between War Within and Midnight. I thought that was just like spot on perfect placement because I'd never experienced this stuff before. So working through the story, seeing what happened, seeing the raid, and then looking up when you're fighting that last dude and seeing kind of the exit to the dream that we now know is going to go to the Heronir lands.
Right.
That was really good timing.
Right. Yeah. Just the fact that like stuff I've been in and played through before, knowing that it connects, story-wise to the new stuff, that blows my mind. Like the fact that we're fighting something and just on the other side of the mist that we can't see is the Heronir people.
Yep. I won't be surprised if they have some things to say about some of those events that happened in Legion when we finally see them.
Yeah. Kind of like speaking of Legion Remix, when we're running that one dungeon over and over and the flame guy's like, why doesn't my Fire Lord respond to me? And I'm like, do you really want me to tell you what happened?
I like that moment. That's good.
It's like, well, we kind of killed him a while back. There was about 40 of us. We rolled up in his hood and we're like, yeah, you're done. But yeah, Legion Remix, again, I'm going to struggle to TLDR that, man. That, like, as fun as Panda Remix was, I feel like Legion Remix just amped it up a notch and got me to actually level characters for yet another round that I never would have without it. I leveled yet another Warlock just for funsies. I leveled, the tunes that I needed for the achievements, all the different races at max level. But just the fact of how fun and rewarding and powerful you felt by the end of that horrible grind for the 999 versatility or whatever it is. But just the fact that, again, like, if you're going to include something, make the payoff huge. Otherwise, why include it at all?
I also really liked Legion Remix. I was not here for Pandaria Remix. But for me, season 2, we had something happen in the guild at the beginning of season 3, and it kind of split our guild up. And I was kind of low motivated to play. I had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life too. And Legion Remix really kind of brought me back that joy and that fun that I had been missing as I focus on, organizing raids and having to do a bunch of stuff in the personal life. Just sitting down and enjoying WoW again was really nice. And so Legion Remix to me was kind of reaffirming why I play this game and why it's fun to me.
Which is a great way for us to tease our next episode. Woohoo! Look at that. It's like we planned it or something. We honestly didn't. But I believe that our next topic that we should probably cover is not just overall, why do people as a whole come back to World of Warcraft? Because let's be honest, it's been around almost as long as I have at this point. But more specifically, what brings you, Trog, and me, Rocket, back to this game when, quite frankly, there's a lot of salt involved, but I keep coming back. Like, I keep returning. Like, I want it. I need that salt. And we're going to get into that in a deep, deep dive next time, y'all.
Yes, I think that's going to be a great way to kind of help the listeners of the show understand who we are and what we really enjoy and what we want from this game. And that will be just a good discussion to get to know us more and hopefully increase your joy at listening to us talk back and forth.
Yes, hopefully. Hopefully we haven't annoyed you to the point of not listening. That is our hope.
Well, Rocket, that sounds like a good place to close.
I believe. So, for all you Rockamaniacs out there, ooh, that's a horrible one. I'm not going to use that one. Rockamaniacs. Anyway, I don't think I ever had a hint of salt in today's episode. So I'm going to go ahead and revisit probably the saltiest thing that I have for the entirety of the War Within. Oh, and we need to give it our arbitrary grades, Trog.
Oh, I forgot.
So my sprinkle of salt for the entirety of the War Within is, for God's sake, can we control Braun better? Please. Give us the ability, kind of like they did in Legion, of when you have that person who shows up to help you, you can guide them. Or a hunter or a warlock. If you've ever played one, you have a pet bar and you can tell it where to go, or you can tell it to stay put and not pull things. That is my sprinkling of salt.
Wow. And in that, you did not mention even once needing duct tape to put over Bran's mouth.
Boy howdy, found a bit of good. Don't stand there, proceeds to throw potions there.
Boy, we're going to have to work on this outro.
But I would say, what would you say your overall grade is?
My overall grade, I think I would call this a B+. It's not Wrath. It's not BC to me, but it was very, very good.
Yeah, I would go slightly higher because I feel like they kind of pushed the envelope a little bit. They took some risks. Some mistakes were made. But I would give it, if I'm going to give it an A, it's definitely an A-. There is lots of room for improvement. But like a high B+, solid A-. Great job, Blizz. Keep the good work up. That is all I...
Well, I think we are rather close on that. We're both hoping that Midnight takes all these good things and just makes them better.
Builds upon it, yeah. Well, from all of us here from Salt, All the Things, we hope you enjoyed listening, and we'll chat next time about why do we play World of Warcraft. See you then!